Marco,
What?
who found out the name of those shoes for you?
Was it you?
Yeah, it was me, bitch.
Damn, son, why you listen to my convo across the room?
Because you in my fucking dressing room.
How did you first meet them? Was it long before you started making music together?
Yeah, we met back in '05. We were both individually working on music, and we came across each other's music, you know, through different mixtapes and mutual friends and things like that. And I'd heard some of his stuff, he'd heard some of my stuff, and you know, come to find out we both was from Brooklyn, both was in New York, and we wound up linking up and starting to make some records together just as homies. Like, yo, I'm doing a record, put you on it, vice versa, whatever. And from there, it just built. And then, you know, once we got with DJ Premier, that's when we did 2 official singles together, and just took off from there.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
And what is the main goal that you wanted to achieve with this project?
The main goal behind Bower Brothers was, it was a few different reasons. You know, one, we wanted to satisfy the fan base and audience that had been asking for it for a number of years. For 2, we both felt like it would be fun to do a project with, you know, the homies. Just get in there, you know, somebody that you know get busy, somebody that you know is gonna spit bars all over the joint crazy. You know, have a lyrical exercise, a little sparring match, and go in the gym and shoot jumpers with your homie. So, you know, that reason, of course. And, you know, to be able to get out on the road and tour and do it together and just, you know, like a lot of times, a lot of people do records together for the wrong reasons. They do it because it's a good look, or they do it because somebody is buzzing, or they do it because their label said this makes sense. Me and Sky did it without any of those stipulations or any of those constrictions holding us down. It was like, yo, the people been asking, you got a couple free months, I got a couple free months. Let's get in there and get the people what they wanted and have fun in the process, and that's what we did. You know, as you can see from our interviews, if you ever spend 5 minutes with us, you see we like to bug out, like to crack jokes. And that's what the studio sessions was. It was a bunch of joke cracking, bunch of laughing, bunch of eating bad food and scrolling through Instagram, and in the process we made a pretty dope album.
And if you get to explain a foreigner what is the essence of New York and New York living, what would you say?
Getting money.
If we had to explain the essence of New York and New York living to a foreigner, it's the hustle, the grind, getting money, and a record on the album called Blue Yankee Fitted. If you listen to that, you know what the essence of New York is if you're not from the city, you know?
And what are your favorite places in New York?
Brooklyn, of course. If you're talking boroughs, obviously, you know, Brooklyn. I love Harlem, Queens, it's the whole city, but pardon me, as far as just places to be, if it's not in my hood, then definitely, you know, certain sneaker stores, certain food spots, cigar spots. There's a cigar spot around my way called Diamante's. That's awesome. The only thing about it, the dude who owns it is my man David. He owns the spot, but he's also the voice of the Brooklyn Nets. And that's whack. I'm not a Nets fan, I'm a Knicks tape all day.
Yeah.
Shout out to my man David Diamante. It's all good. I know you gotta do what you gotta do, but yeah, that's a dope spot. I like that.
And regarding that, I wanted to ask you, how did you react when the Nets moved to Brooklyn? And how has it changed now? Are there many Nets fans in New York?
It was horrible.
There's a bunch of Net fans in New York now. A bunch of guys who switched sides and went from the Knicks to the Nets because they live in Brooklyn. But we stayed true. We orange and blue over here.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? Knicks tape 100% all day, every day. The funny part is, I wouldn't be anti-Nets. And I can't say I'm anti-Nets because I'm super Brooklyn all day, every day. But the Nets came to town real arrogant, and that's what I didn't appreciate.
Yeah.
They came to town talking about, listen, we running the city now, it's only one team in New York now, and shit like that. And I just didn't like that approach. You know, I felt like if they came to town humble and just did what they had to do, it would have been an easier transition. But they came in kind of trying to bogart and boss up, and I didn't appreciate that. That was some sucker shit.
And the team don't reflect what Brooklyn is.
Yeah.
Like Darren Williams, Joe Johnson. Those guys don't move like Brooklyn guys move, so the team doesn't even represent the borough. You know, a guy like a Melo moves like a Brooklyn guy would move, as far as how he looked, as far as how he played, as far as off the court, you know, the way he carried himself. Even in Amari, his joint, you know what I'm saying? His joint meaning his woman, you know what I'm saying? Like, even in Amari, you know, like those guys, they have more of an aura and an essence that represents.
Yeah, they got a Brooklyn swag.
You know what I'm saying?
It's
but
a certain persona you gotta have.
I'm talking D. Williams
Brooklyn.
and Joe Johnson. I'm talking about the first season. D. Williams and Joe Johnson and all these other guys.
Chris Humphries.
Yeah, like these guys. What are we doing?
What are we doing?
This is the representation. This is the picture of the borough.
Right, and then they went and made it the Brooklyn Celtics. They got Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, and that don't feel like Brooklyn. Right. It just don't feel right, baby. It gotta feel like something.
Yeah.
Okay, and you both have worked with legendary, iconic producers like DJ Premier and Pete Rock. Who made the biggest impression on you as a producer, and which recording session was the most memorable?
Oh man, everybody we work with, whether they got a name or not, and whether it was individually or not, you always learn something from a session. Even if it's a session that didn't go right, you learn from it in that regard. But all the producers you named and working with other producers, Ill Mind, Jalil Beats, Black Milk,
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man, of course, Ant-Man, Wonder,
Marco.
The list goes on and on and on. Marco, for me, I would say I personally learned the most just being around Dr. Dre. Working with Dr. Dre and being around him, I learned the most. It's like little things that you can't even really, you can't describe or pinpoint, but when it happens, you're like, oh man, that's how that works. Oh, so that's how you could do that and become that, legendary and be on that side of the fence, and that was dope. But everybody, I think everything is a learning experience, no matter what it is.
I learned from a doctor too. Use a condom. That's true.
Okay, and I have a double question for you right now.
Double question.
What is your favorite Skyzoo song and why? And for you, what is your favorite?
That's it. That never happened before. That's it.
My favorite Skyzoo song, it would have to be, it's two. They neck and neck. It's Langston's Pen. Is amazing. It's lyrically amazing. The beat is amazing. The way he wrote it, the content, everything was crazy. I love it. I love the way it fade out and leave you wanting more. One of my favorite records from Skyzoo. I got certain songs on my iPod. When I drive in the car, I have the iPod on. It's on shuffle. And certain songs I call unskippable, and that's an unskippable song. When they come on, it don't matter if I'm getting walked on them stuff. It don't matter what's going on. I gotta let it play. And then the other one would be Dear Whoever from the Salvation. Just another record. It's every artist has a record that they say, I could have wrote that, I should have wrote that, or I wish I wrote that. And that's one of those records for me. Like, he just captured everything I was feeling in the song, and it was like, damn, I should have made that record. You know what I'm saying? I know a bunch of artists that have those type of records, and those two, for me, I mean, his whole catalog is amazing, impeccable. He's one of the best MCs, best writers, but those two right there, for me, they do it. Scott doesn't know really much of my catalog.
Oh, man. I don't think right now. Yeah. First off, appreciate that. Second, both of those records was Ill Mind records, so that's cool.
Busy.
And as far as tour records, for the record, for sure, just all the pockets, the beat, the lyrics, the like back in the booth, probably rapping the rap, like that whole thing. And an old joint, man, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 is the move.
Remember we was trying to get the producer to come with another one of those beats? And you never happened. Yeah, he shot his load. He shot his whole entire load on that beat.
He watching too.
I want him to know. I want him to understand what happened.
Man, when I come through, getting it in, and then I'm through 1, 2. There, 1, 2, 3 was the move.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate
1, 2, 3
that.
was nice.
I ain't hear that shit in 12 years.
Okay, what was it like to get a blessing from Spike Lee? For Spike Lee was my hero and work with him for your video.
Right.
How did you manage to do it?
Oh man,
Ginger pants.
Well, first off, getting Spike on board and getting the nod and the cosign from him, amazing. The way it came about, actually, his son Jackson, he has a teenage son, about 15, 16 years old. Being that he's that age, he's a fan of hip hop. So he had the album, he had A Dream Deferred, and he's playing it in the house in his room. And Spike Lee Was My Hero comes on, so he goes in his father's room and says, Dad, Skyzoo made a record about you. Spike comes in the room and hears it, gets on his phone and tweets me. That's exactly how it happened. Then 8 hours later, he tweeted me again. And both times he was just, yo, shout to Skyzoo, yo, never had my name be the title of a song before, and keep rocking, the joint is crazy. He was quoting lyrics from it. So I got with my man Fuse Green, does all of Spike's artwork. And ironically, I'm like, oh, okay, word, let me holler at Fuse and try to connect the dots and put it together. Got introduced to Jason. Shout out to my man Jason at 40 Acres.
Shout out to Jay.
He let Spike know, yo, I know Skyzoo. And then it all just came full circle. Spike asked if the video was done yet, and we was like, nah, and he was like, well, keep me posted. And that was that, you know. And from there now, Spike is like my big brother, you know. Email him, you know, back and forth, talking about the Knicks and talking about, you know, whatever, you know what I mean? He hits me and invites me out to certain things going on personally and all that. So, you know, it's like my big brother.
It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it really is. Yeah.
Double Barrel is, in my opinion, one of the best albums of 2009. Is there any chance that we'll get another Double Barrel?
With me and Marco?
Yeah,
I don't fucking know. I hate Marco.
30K.
Marco said we're gonna do a Kickstarter. If y'all really want the album, the way people saying they want the album, Marco said we're gonna do a Kickstarter. We're gonna raise $30,000 to make the album right, make it the way it's supposed to be, and sound the way it's supposed to sound. So if y'all really want it, tweet Marco Polo. You want to know that y'all gonna support the Kickstarter at Marco Polo Beats. If y'all do that, we'll do that.
And which song was the hardest to recreate on a note to Reasonable Doubt? Which took the longest to create?
Let me see. It all kind of came to me fairly easy, and that's not a knock at all. I don't want people to take that the wrong way. I think because I know the album so well from being a fan of it, I was able to put my spin on it kind of easy because I've been listening to it for so long and knew how I would react if I was in certain situations. And that was the whole, that was the approach to the project. It wasn't to pretend I was him or pretend that I went through those things. It was to say if I was going through these same scenarios and these same issues, whether good or bad, how would I react as Skylar and not as Sean? You know what I mean? How would I react as myself and not as Jay-Z if I was put in the same situation, in the same room, whatever it was? And so with that, you know, it was easy to just tell my side of the story if I was in that. But Regrets, being that Regrets is my favorite Jay-Z record, Regrets was probably not the hardest, but I would say it meant the most because that's my favorite Jay-Z record. Regrets and Coming of Age are my favorite Jay-Z records.
Torae, if you had to choose...
It was hard for me to do my verse because I didn't know what the hell Source Money was talking about. No, stop. Shout to the homie Source Money.
And if you had to do one tribute album to do a classic like Skyzoo did for A Reasonable Doubt, which album would you choose and why?
Well, the reason I would never do it is because Skyzoo did it. And although a million people say, oh, you should do it now, we already fucking attached that to him for the most part. So I would never do it. I appreciate
emotions.
I appreciate it why Scott did it and how he did it. I don't know, man. I never gave it much thought. You know, people after that came out, people was like, oh, you gotta do Ready to Die. And I was like, that's stupid. I'm not gonna do that. I don't know. I mean, my favorite hip hop album, it's not my favorite, but it's like if I only could take one with me, it would be Illmatic. So I guess, you know, even though LZI did it, I would never do it, but that would probably be it. And that's neck and neck with The Great Adventures of Slick Rick. Maybe I'll do that.
What do you think about the New York rap scene now, and how has it changed throughout the years? Is there more unity now with the Beast Coast movement, or is still everyone struggling to get out?
It's definitely still the same as far as every man for themselves for the most part, and you know, nobody from, at least if we're talking about from the city, from New York, you know, nobody really showing the support that they should to one another as artists. I think it just looks like it's more support going on than it is. And of course you have people like you named, you know, like Beast Coast, Pro Era and all that, and you have certain cliques that are getting busy and doing their thing, and shout to all of them, but I think it looks like there's more unity going on than there really is, at least in New York. If you go to other places like Atlanta or LA or Miami, that unity is real. You know, they've really shown that love and support to one another as MCs. I don't mean the fans to the MCs, I mean MCs to MCs, you know, supporting one another. New York, it just looks like we supporting one another, but for the most part we aren't, you know, and that's sad.
And which one of you has the crazier work ethic, and what are the main differences in the way you create and record?
I couldn't say one has a crazier work ethic than the other. We both do what we do it well. You know, although we homies and we kick it, we both have two different lives. You know, I got a wife and 2 kids, and Skyzoo's single. So, you know, that in itself changes the dynamic of what our time management is like, you know, because I split time between, you know, MCing and doing radio and being a husband and a father, and he split time with a lot of other things that he does. So, you know, I wouldn't say one has a crazier work ethic than the other. You know, we both produce music at our own rate and produce product at our own rate. But he has a great ethic. You know, I see Sky go in the studio with a blank canvas and come out with an amazing song. You know, he does that for every song. He go in the studio with no preconceived, no pre-written, no nothing. He go in there with a blank canvas, let the beat talk to him, and then he reply back. And I think that's amazing.
And Skyzoo, which one is your favorite concept song that you've ever recorded and why?
That I've ever recorded? Oh man, there's a couple. The Shooter soundtrack off of Salvation. Just the whole idea of a little kid growing up around gun culture, gun violence, and becoming that, starting out as a straw purchaser. If you don't know what that means, Google it, or Urban Google, or Urban whatever.
Do your Googles.
Right, but you know, coming up and going from somebody viewing to being a straw purchaser to being somebody who actually pulls the trigger, that, you know, that whole vibe. Langston's Pen, like Todd named earlier. I got a record called True Romance that came out in '04. Actually never came out, it was just something I did when I was coming up and no one knew who I was. But it's on YouTube, and a lot of people know of it from YouTube, and they go, oh, that record, that True Romance, was about this couple, and I don't want to give the story away, it was about this couple that's on the run, and boom, boom. A lot of that type of story stuff. But I would say...
you put it on YouTube?
Nah, I definitely didn't
put it out.
I don't know how to upload audio to YouTube. I know how to upload a movie file to YouTube. I don't know how to upload a song with a picture.
I remember, like, that was your record. I remember when we met, you played it.
Yeah, right. It was on a disc.
Yeah,
on like
I remember
a CDJ.
You played it. That was your record.
Yeah. But besides that newer stuff, Definitive Prayer for sure. Definitive Prayer is up there because it's just me dumbing out to the chaos and the mess that is, you know, the David Axelrod record that I rocked on, you know, and it all came out beautiful. So that, couple joints. I got some new stuff coming up that's gonna be real nice. Steel's Apartment for sure. But I got some stuff coming up. Music for my friends, 2015. It's gonna be nice.
Okay, and Torae, you've had a chance to work with DJ Premier a lot of times. Which
more than I care to remember.
Which Premier collab is the most special to you and why?
The most special, it would be a toss-up between Get It Done and For the Record. Get It Done because it was the first time, you know, it was like what I had dreamed of as a kid coming up, and you know, when I was handpicking my favorite producers and who I wanted to make an album and yada yada yada, you know, Preem was always at the top of that list. So the reality of it, you know, sitting in headquarters, formerly D&D, and you know, the beat being made right on the spot and being around Premier and just the whole, you know, the whole picture, the way the whole story came together was amazing. So for me, Get It Done was just, you know, one of those moments that I would never forget. And For the Record, you know, again, it's a similar situation, you know, going in there. It was the first time I was doing a solo joint with Preem. And I just love the end result. That record, for me, is gonna be a timeless joint. It's not a lot of my music that, you know, I feel like forever and ever and never I would want to listen to it, I would want to perform it. But every time I hear For the Record, it's just, I always feel that same energy. That, you know, it's never a point where I'm like, all right, I'm tired of this. It's a little boring. I can skip this. For the Record, it always feels electric. It always feels alive. You know, it always feels like the first time I heard it. And that type of excitement is rare in music. You know what I'm saying? Especially when it's your own personal songs. I can feel that way about my favorite artists, but my own personal songs, at some point I grow old. They grow old. I get tired of them. You know what I'm saying? But For the Record is always like the first time.
The last question is, what would you say is your biggest musical accomplishment in this world?
My biggest musical accomplishment is whatever my most recent project out is at the time. So it changes every project. Because I feel like if I put out another project, then that means I'm still here, I'm still doing what I love, and I'm still getting paid to do it. And I still get to do this for a living every day successfully. So I think that's my biggest musical accomplishment. Being able to make music, make a living, see the world, get paid to do so, and help other artists and work with other artists and meet with people and do things that I always dreamed about doing as a kid and, you know, coming up. It's kind of broad, but that would be my biggest musical accomplishment. Just being able to make music and call it an accomplishment.
And for you? For me, just getting the respect from a lot of the guys that I grew up idolizing and wanting to be like, and the people that inspired me. You know, the first time I ever went on the road ever, I mean, I did do spot dates with Cam, but the first time I ever went on the tour, it was with Master Ace. And, you know, just being a Brooklyn kid, Master Ace is one of my favorite MCs. And it's a little scary when you meet your heroes because they always seem to kind of let you down, you know. But whereas Ace was a real stand-up guy, great human, great person, and he extended the opportunity to me to get out on the road and to see the world and to start to really perform and perfect my craft and make it a career. So just having to respect the guys like, you know, that I came up idolizing and emulating, you know, to have those guys be my friends and be able to contact those guys and call them when I needed something is an accomplishment. So, you know, that would be mine.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
No doubt. Thanks for having us.
Good questions indeed. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Our brothers get double the questions.